Walang ano pa. Wala po. Hindi ko nga nalaman.
When the world seemed to stop, we carry on, continue to dream and create. We don't just work with what we know. We innovate to adapt. So you can drive your career forward. We don't just make you feel welcome. We provide everyone an equal opportunity to succeed. We don't stop at just enough. We go extra to care and provide, so you can brave the world safely. Times aren't the same, but we've always been different. We are Concentrix. We dream different. We create different. We embrace different.
Welcome to the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, the country's first Polytechnic U. PUP is a state-run university governed by the Republic Act 8292, known as the Higher Education Modernization Act of 1997, and its implementing rules and regulations contained in the Commission on Higher Education Memorandum Circular Number 4, Series of 1997. It is home to more than 70,000 students, making it the largest state university in the Philippines in terms of student population. It is the university's commitment to give qualified and talented students access to quality and responsive education to aid them in the achievement of their dreams and the improvement of their lives. True to its commitment of making education accessible to all, the university has strategically established campuses and branches all over Luzon. PUP boasts of its roster of 1,483 full-time and part-time faculty members and 707 administrative employees. The faculty members and employees perform the collective goal of training, servicing, and supporting the university's stakeholders. From its humble beginnings in 1904, PUP was originally established as the Manila Business School primarily for the training of personnel for government service and to provide skills needed for private employment. 4 years later, the Manila Business School was renamed Philippine School of Commerce or PSC and merged with the Philippine Normal School from 1933 to 1946. Through the virtue of Republic Act 778, PSC was renamed to Philippine College of Commerce or PCC in 1952. In April 1, 1978, PCC was converted into a chartered state university now known as the Polytechnic University of the Philippines by virtue of Presidential Decree Number 1341. PUP truly has come a long way from a business school to a premier polytechnic university, the very first in the country. Every year, around 50,000 graduating high school students, mostly from economically challenged families, take the Polytechnic University of the Philippines College Entrance Test or PUPSET and hope to become one of the 10,000 who will be given a chance to be new PUPians. At present, the university offers more than 80 programs in the graduate and undergraduate levels with its strategic direction of making the colleges vertically articulated. Graduate School, College of Accountancy and Finance, College of Arts and Letters, College of Architecture and Fine Arts, College of Business Administration, College of Communication, College of Computer and Information Sciences, College of Education, College of Engineering, College of Law, College of Political Science and Public Administration, College of Social Sciences and Development, College of Science, College of Tourism, Hospitality and Transportation Management, College of Human Kinetics, Institute of Technology. PUP further strengthens its open university system through expanded tertiary education equivalency and accreditation program and the non-traditional system program. It caters to borderless educational system that aims to reach many learners as possible. For more than a century of existence, countless outstanding achievements have raised PUP to the level of a national comprehensive university. With a vision to transform the university into an epistemic community, PUP subscribes to the idea that a university should have an extensive research and extension development culture. Each year, PUP surpasses national passing rate in licensure examinations and ranks among the top in different academic disciplines. PUP has also institutionalized academic exchange and international cooperation with various countries all over the world through its Office of International Affairs. Today, PUP is relishing its successes and its students are enjoying unprecedented academic opportunities. An enhanced campus environment, upgraded colleges, state-of-the-art technology, nationally and internationally recognized programs. It has gone far from what it was more than a century ago. This is mainly due to the support given by the government, the PUP community, and its benefactors. With the combined efforts, PUP will continue to be a partner in nation building and in poverty alleviation for the marginalized sector of the society, with quality, responsive, and relevant education as a tool. PUP, the country's first Polytechnic U.
Emerson is a global technology and engineering leader. We operate in over 150 countries. We are 110,000 employees worldwide. And here in the Philippines, we have over 2,000 employees.
My name is Vicky Florento. I'm from Dell Philippines. I'm handling the university relations and services hiring.
Pag-asa Steel supplies concrete reinforcing bars to the Philippines' booming construction industry. We have been the leading supplier of quality steel bars for the past 52 years.
EGS is an Alorica company. It is one of the fastest growing BPO companies in the Philippines right now.
I'm Cecil Venancio, and I'm Branding and Communications Director of Sykes Asia.
We don't decide whether you're from a top-tier university or a state university. We decide based on our assessments that includes exams and interviews. Having said that, a lot of Dell's workforce in the Philippines are from PUP.
55 to 80 hires annually, those coming from PUP alone. And as a matter of fact, 14 of the homegrown employees who started from staff and supervisor have been promoted.
Currently, we have 13 employees from the PUP. They're working in a different field, so most of them are an engineer, some are in sales, most of them are in the higher position.
There's a huge pool of students that we can really harvest from. And we know the reputation that they bring. So we're glad that we have a university like PUP that we can rely on for our future employees.
I love the graduates of PUP. They're not only fun to work with, but you can rely on them. They are very, very dependable.
PUP graduates are an exact match and fit to Pag-asa Steel's mission and vision.
The reason why we prefer the PUP graduates is the fact that we notice that they have a common denominator, very hardworking. See, whatever happens, they'd still work. Even if it's raining, they'd still come to work. You give them additional tasks, they'd accept. They are resilient.
Very passionate aside from being resilient, because we can see that they're very dedicated with their job. And we've seen a lot of PUP graduates, not just in one department.
They turn out to adapt very well and adjust well to our company here in the Philippines. They're productive employees and they stay with us for a long time.
Stand out sa PUP graduate is their loyalty sa company.
Integrity and ethics, drive for results, intellectual capacity, and adaptability. So when we hire PUPians, they have this kind of competencies.
Of course, they're very intelligent people, responsible in a sense because whenever we meet these graduates and we ask them what are their future plans, they would always come up with answers like helping out their family, or because I'm done with school, I'll help out another sibling. So you would know already that these kids, even before they actually embark on certain work, they already have goals in mind. They're not maarte, no? Whatever you give them, they know that if it's for the purpose of the job, they will do it. And so they have, they're the ones that survive the challenges of work. They don't shirk away from responsibilities. they're the type who, whatever the job requires, they're up for the challenge.
PUPNs enable people everywhere to grow and thrive.
PUP is one of the pillars of the nation because it is an institution that provides good graduates, people who really contribute to the success of the community or to the success of the country.
To all the people associated with PUP, if you're a graduate, congratulations, and you should be proud of yourselves. For those of you that are students, please continue the tradition, the proud legacy that your school has. Some of you, PUP, you work for us now. We appreciate you. We know you're good employees. For those of you that might work for us in the future, please consider us. We'd love to have you. We know that you make a great employee for Emerson.
PUPNs, bring everything you are. If you have big ideas, let's talk. Come work where passion meets possibility. You can visit jobs.del.com for opportunities.
To pursue your dreams and work hard for whatever endeavor you will choose. And in the event that you will choose to apply in one of the fastest BPO companies in the Philippines, I would like to invite you to apply in EGS, an Alorica company, because our doors are open for all of you.
To all the PUPNs, let's create a Science of Smile together.
Smart is very happy to have PUP graduates now enjoying their career and let them live more.
Hashtag Sites to PUP. We will support you in more ways than one.
Tara na, maging magkasama na tayo. Mabuhay ang PUP.
Paman, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marugdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Hi, I'm Engineer Florinda H. Oquindo, Director of the Alumni Relations and Career Development Office. The role of our office is to keep connections among students and alumni, provides complete range of services to students, alumni, and employers in the area of career development, graduates and professional schools preparations, employee relations, and campus recruitment. We also provide alumni and students with the tools and resources to help find success in all professional endeavors. To all freshmen, please come and visit us. Our office is located at N209 North Wing, 2nd floor.
Good morning guys. Good morning mga kaisko at kaiska natin ngayon. So, lahat ba ay safe? So, pa-thumbs up naman kung lahat ay safe. So, lumindol kanina. So, I hope everybody is safe at sana walang nasaktan, walang nasugatan, or walang kahit anong nangyari sa kahit sinong part ng pamilya nyo. So, I'm Professor Jane S. Pulma of the Alumni Relation and Career Development Office. Our office provides services and assistance to all the students, alumni, and support in the area of career development and placement services. We sustain the link sa industry natin well as our student and or the academe. So, marami po tayong mga kasama ngayon, hindi lang po mga estudyante, meron po tayong mga administrative staff and employee mula sa iba't ibang branch ng campuses ng PUP, mula PUP Main up to PUP Ragay. So may mga nakita ako kanina is PUP Maragondon. Tama po ba? Meron din PUP Kalawan. So good morning po. At maraming salamat sa pag-attend nyo sa aming webinar. So I hope that this webinar would help you not just personally but syempre, professionally. Mamaya po may maghapon po tayong panahon para magkasama para sa webinar na to. So, this morning, ang topic po natin is communication skills at mamayang hapon naman, ang topic natin ay fundamentals of Canva. So, may magle-lecture sa atin. So, isang hard skills at isang soft skills ang matututunan ng ating mga participants for today's event. Okay, this career development webinar aims to help not just the student or alumni or attendees in one's career, but it also wants you or aims to help you grow professionally and personally. I hope that the new learning, knowledge, and skills can help you shape and develop one's career objectives. Okay, so tingnan natin. Andito na po ang ating speaker. So, guys, let me share my screen muna po para sa ating webinar etiquette. Okay, so may dalawa po tayong participants for today's events, our Zoom participants. So welcome guys, welcome all, welcome sa ating mga kaisko at kaiska. So please remember to keep your microphone always on mute while this webinar proper is ongoing, and always do remember that this webinar is currently on live stream. So we'll be having a Q&A portion. You may raise your hand or use the Zoom chat para po sa interaction natin, or if you wanted to ask question, meron kayong insight, suggestion, or comment sa ating speaker well as the staff po. So, we will be monitoring yung mga question nyo sa Zoom chat well as you're raising your hands. So, meron naman tayong isa pang participants for today's events. Ito naman ang ating stream participants. Sino ba yun? Siyempre, kakalimutan ba natin ang ating mga nanonood at nagpa-follow sa atin sa ating PUP Career Center Facebook page? Siyempre, hindi, di ba? So, good morning po. Good morning sa lahat. So, you may use your comment section with your para sa inyong mga question, you just have to introduce yourself with your course year and section. We will be monitoring and including those questions during the webinar at i-address po namin yon during the Q&A portion. So para sa lahat, para makareceive tayo ng ating digital certificate that will be released 2 to 3 weeks after the conduct of this webinar, kindly accomplish the evaluation form flash at the Zoom chat or the comment section of the stream at the end of the session. So your digital certificate will be given to those who attended, participated, and accomplished the evaluation form given at the end of the session. So alam ko marami na sa inyong excited. Sino po ba ang ating speaker ngayon to discuss about communication skills? So our speaker to discuss about communication skills is one of our industry partner who is an American business industry company specializing in customer engagement and business performance. So let's welcome Sir JP Anyonyebo of Concentrix. Sir JP, good morning.
Hello, good morning, and good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about communication skills. So let me just share my screen with everyone. Okay, so can you please give me a thumbs up if ever you are seeing my screen being flashed at the moment? Okay, thank you very much. So before I begin, let me just introduce myself. My name is JP Anyonyebo. I am the Luzon Regional Lead for Academe and Community Engagement of Concentrix. My job basically is to partner with schools such as your university so that we can provide our services for them, hopefully also encourage people to join our growing family. And later on, I'm going to show you how big Concentrix really is. On a side note also, I was once a communication trainer, and I also handled the communication training team from a different company. Dun kami nagkakilala ni Ma'am Jane actually when I was still working with that particular company. But now, let me just introduce Concentrix to everyone, okay? Concentrix WebHelp is a global business services company that delivers extraordinary customer, employee, and user experiences for more than 450 of the world's best brands. Before, we were just simply known as Concentrix, but just recently, like a few weeks ago, we became combined with another company called WebHelp, which is based in Europe, in France, and that's just basically showing how the growth of Concentrix is. We have a stronghold for North American and APAC countries, but now we're moving into the European region as well. Okay, so basically we're a very huge organization. We have more than 280,000 employees all over the world, scattered in more than 40 countries, and we service 750 or more than 750 clients. Now, part of those 40 plus countries is the Philippines. Okay, Concentrix Philippines is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, IT BPM company in the country today. We have 110,000 employees. We call our employees our game changers because they are, and we are encouraging them to continue changing the game, especially in customer experience. We have more than 19 years of operation experience here in the Philippines, and we have 50 sites scattered all over from Luzon to Visayas to Mindanao. And we also serve a lot of industries because a lot of people usually ask me, okay, ito po yung course ko, pwede po ba ako magtrabaho sa Concentrix? And the answer is usually yes, because we provide services to different types of industry verticals such as automotive, banking and financial services, consumer electronics, energy and public sector, healthcare services, insurance, media and communications, retail and e-commerce, technology, and then travel, transportation, and tourism. So we've got it all. Okay, so now let's move on to my topic this morning. My topic this morning is all about talking the talk, improving your communication skills to succeed in the workforce. Okay, basically, when we're talking about communication skills, it's not just pertaining to one specific course. It's not pertaining to one specific task. We use our communication all the time, which then leads me to my first question to everyone. And you can use your chat, by the way, in answering this question. What comes into your mind when one says communication skills? Anong unang pumapasok sa inyong isip pag sinasabi ang term na communication skills? So let me see our chat. Any ideas? What is communication skills? Kasi to be honest with you, itong isa sa pinakalaspag, sorry for the term, laspag na ginagamit na term not just in work, but even in school, even in everything. So we have one answer here, ability to express oneself. Very good. Okay. In fact, that is correct. Because if we were to define, okay, let's try to define what it is. Communication is usually understood as the transmission of information. And yes, it is your ability to express yourself. Okay? Now, therefore, the skills to effectively transmit that information is called your communication skill. Your ability to communicate with another person or a group of persons. Okay? Now, when we're talking about communication skills, hindi lang yan sa pagsasalita. Okay? There are 5 most common communication types. First, you have your oral or verbal. You have written, nonverbal, contextual, and then we also have what we call active listening. Let's go over each of these communication types so that we understand more. Okay, so that later on, when we move on into the nitty-gritty on how you can be successful in communicating, at least alam natin itong 5 communication types, because usually we combine these types of communication so that we can effectively transmit what we have to say, what we're thinking, especially when you're talking about moving into the next chapter of your life after your university. What if you start to work? What if you decide to work? How can you be more successful in your work, especially when it comes to communication? Okay, so let's start off with what verbal or oral communication is. When we say verbal or oral communication, these are our thoughts that are expressed through speech. These are spoken communication. So we use words, we use whatever language that we have, and we say it. Okay? So that's what you call verbal communication. So examples of verbal communication would be your face-to-face conversation. Nakikipag-usap ka lang sa isang tao. So it's not necessarily as formal and academic as you would think it is. But the fact that you're speaking with someone, whether it be your relative, your friends, your colleagues, your fellow students, that's your face-to-face conversation. Job interviews is another form of where you can use verbal communication. When you say job interviews, so gumraduate ka na. Or minsan even, there are some people that while they're working, while they're studying, they're also working. So for job interviews, for example, you apply for a job, you are called in or scheduled for an interview. And this is where an interviewer, which is a company, would ask you different questions. And these questions usually, and I'll talk about this later on when I give tips, these questions usually are directed into getting to know who you are so that we can determine whether you fit in our organization. Next, we have phone calls. Yung tumawag sa'yo sa cellphone mo. Kung may landline ka, may tatawag. So you are still conversing with another person. Presenting in a meeting, for example, and not necessarily in a meeting also. If you're a student, sometimes you have group reports and you have to present in front of the class. Or if you are an employee, for example, and you need to present your report to, let's say, your management or upper management or executive management. So it's presenting in a meeting. When you're giving in-person feedback, when you say in-person feedback, these are, one-to-one sessions, and you provide feedback on the performance of your one-downs or any type of feedback there is. Let's say post-activity. Usually may mga ganyan eh. Post-activity, let's say may event kayo, what happened, what went well in that event, what could be different in that event. So that's still a conversation where you can apply verbal communication. Asking or giving directions, whether it be directions, saan po ba papunta sa ganitong pwesto, to giving directions or instructions for that matter. And you try this, this is an exercise that I would usually give my previous trainees when I used to train. Try instructing people how to cook rice, or try instructing people how to tie their shoelaces. And you will realize that this is where you can really challenge yourself and how well you can give your verbal or how well you can improve your verbal communication in giving directions or instructions. Next, giving a speech. Okay? Inimbitahan ka na magtalumpate or mag-speech in front of a group of people. So that's one. What I'm doing right now, I'm not really giving a speech, but the next bullet point, pretty much teaching or training or anything that, giving a career talk, giving any form of talk where you have to speak, that is what you call verbal communication. Now, another type of communication is what we call written communication. For written communication, this is the exchange of information, ideas, or any types of messages through the written language. So when you say written, hindi naman to kailangan kumuha ka ng ball pen. Remember, our generation now, your generations more specifically, is more digital. So it's in the form of letters, emails, notes, chats, any type of communication where you do not have to say anything, but the words would have to be read. That's what you call written communication. So examples of this would be when you create your resume, your CV, or your biodata. That's a form of communication, because usually when you're applying for a job, you just submit your information or your resume, and then the hiring officer would have to review it. So now you're communicating with the hiring officer through your CV. And that's why it's very important for your resumes to be complete, accurate, even wrong spelling, spelling, punctuation, and whatnot. Okay? Essays. There are times when you have to give an essay. In school, that's usually the case. For example, kung gusto nyo maging abogado, after finishing law, you have to take the bar exams, and the bar exam questions are usually essay type questions. So that's a form of communication as well. In that way, also, when you're talking about essays, you can also relate this to journalism, different types of articles, news articles, editorials, and whatnot. These are forms of written communication because you're exchanging information and ideas and messages through what is written. Invoice. Ano yung invoice na yan? Especially for business, for example, you are acquiring for a particular product or service from a supplier. Usually that supplier would issue an invoice. The invoice is the kind of communication between the supplier and the company, and then there's a deal sort of, or there's a stipulation in that invoice as to when the item or the service will be paid and so on. So it's still communicating. Receipts. Yung mga resibo na nakukuha natin, that's a form of written communication because it's telling you, ito yung cost, ito yung binayaran mo, ito yung sukli mo. Nagagamit ba yung resibo? Pag kayo tumanda, hindi man tumanda, pero pag kayo nagtrabaho na, you will realize that receipts are very important, especially when you're filing for your taxes. Okay? So, important din na written communication yan. Chat. Ito, dapat alam na nating lahat ito. Nakikipag-text kayo, nakikipag-chat kayo sa Messenger, sa IG. that's a form of written communication. Any form of social media is also written communication. Okay? Email correspondence. So if you're sending an email and vice versa, user guides, pag bumili kayo ng isang item, usually merong mga instructions yan, that those are user guides. In the same manner, if you are a trainer or if you're a teacher, yan yung lesson plan mo, your facilitator guide, those are written communication. And any form of documents, again, anything that you can read, those are written communication. Okay? Sa Pilipinas, here in the country, we realize that especially with the generation now, they are more into the written communication and a little bit of the verbal communication. In fact, one of the observations that we've had is that in terms of how the English language is taught in the Philippines, I'm going to generalize it. There seems to be more weight on the written part because everything becomes more, sabi ko nga usually, sabi ko parang mathematical kasi we tend to remember the formula STVIODO as opposed to applying it verbally. Okay? Next. So we have verbal, we have written, and now what we have here is our non-verbal communication. When we're talking about non-verbal communication, these are gestures, your tone of voice, yung tono ng boses mo, your expressions, and even your body posture. Because these things, even yung mata mo, yung pagngiti mo, they can send a message. Kaya nga maraming nag-aaway-away minsan, di ba? Meron tayong mga meron tayong mga kasabihan yung makuha ka sa tingin. Yung mga nanay natitignan ka lang, alam mo nang dapat mag-stay put ka na. These are non-verbal communication. For example, facial expression. Alam mo pag ang tao, alam mo yun yung parang yung nagbabait-baitan. Di ba may mga ganon? Pag nanonood kayo ng mga teleserye, mga ganyan. Facial expressions. In fact, ano ba yon, yung dirty linen, saan nakilala ang dirty linen ng ABS-CBN? Yung sinasabi nilang mata-mata acting na ginawa ni Janine Gutierrez, yung palagi nilang kino-close up yung mata kasi yun yung gusto nilang makita, yung facial expressions, your gestures, okay? We also have what we call paralinguistics, which is the volume of or the tone of your voice. Diba? Minsan kasi we tend to get misinterpreted or misunderstood even because of the volume of our voice. Okay? I have this is just like a sidelight story. A few weeks ago, after 25 years, I was able to go back to my mom's hometown in Bataan. My mom passed away this May. So I thought na maybe it's time for me to visit her hometown again because it's been a long time. The last time I was there was in the 90s. And you might not even been born but that time. So it's been a long time. So I went back, and then one observation that I have that a lot of the people in my mom's hometown, pag nagsalita sila, parang akala mo galit. Okay, that's an example of paralinguistics. This is the volume of your voice. Parang galit palagi. So, nagkakaroon ng impression na parang ano ba to? Galit, mataray to. Ganon. Okay? Body language. That's why there are two types of body language, or open and closed body language. You notice that if you're not too open about a specific topic, you tend to do this. You tend to put your arms like that. So that's an example of body language. And for other people who know how to read body language, they know that, okay, I won't be able to talk much about this topic on this person because that person's not just open about it. Personal space. Personal space. Di ba may mga tao na pag nakikipag-usap sa'yo, parang nakagano na kagad ng malapitan. And sometimes it can be threatening to a lot of people. So you tend to misunderstand what they're trying to communicate. Okay? Or at the same time, you might understand it all the more, lalo na yung pag nagagalit, nag-aaway na, di ba minsan mukha sa mukha na yung galit. Eye gaze or touch. When we say eye gaze, yung mata nyo. Di ba? Yung nakikipag-usap ka, tapos yung kausap mo nakaganon lang, nakatingin sa taas. you know that the concentration is not on you. Okay? Appearance as well, the overall appearance, and then artifacts such as objects and images, yung mga pictures that what we get, these are non-verbal communication. Okay? Next, we have what we call we also have what we call your contextual communication. When you say contextual communication, this would be the transfer of information between two parties where both sides are aware of the relational, environmental, and cultural context of the exchange. Ooh, ano yun? When we're talking about contextual communication, usually, halimbawa, kasama mo sa bahay, meron na kayong understanding about a lot of things. Okay? So, meron na kayong sarili nyong lengguwahe minsan. Di ba minsan may mga ganun na isang tingin mo lang, alam mo na kung anong ibig sabihin. But when we're talking about contextual communication, dito ngayon papasok yung mga tinatawag nating jargon or we call it shop talk or jargon, meaning you're using words that only you people know. Okay? For example, ewan ko kung napapansin nyo to, nagpupunta naman kayo sa SM stores, di ba? Sa mga department stores. Did you ever wonder, because ako ever since, dekada na to, I've always wondered what it meant when we hear sa PA system yung CKS 1, counter 11 PCKS. Ano yung CKS? Di ba? So that's a jargon for that company. And you don't have to be a member or you don't have to be employed in a company to have your own jargon. Okay? Kaya nga tayo nagkakaroon ng mga expression natin ng mga salita. Parang ano lang yan. For example, if you're an LGBTQIA+ member and you know how to speak gay lingo, you know na merong mga terms sa gay lingo na hindi maiintindihan ng ibang tao. 'Di ba? Halimbawa, biglang lalapit ka sa mga friends mo, Bex, Tom Jones na ite. 'Di ba? Ano 'yun? Only means na gutom na ako. 'Di ba? So that's an example of jargon. Another example of contextual communication is using your country's heritage in terms of the language for a specific type of other languages. For example, this is what we call Philippinisms and Filipinoisms. There are certain terms or certain types of communication, even if it's in English, that only Filipinos would know, but would have a different meaning to other people in other parts of the world. For example, dito sa Pilipinas, pag pinaghihintay mo yung tao, halimbawa, nasa fast food chain ka, and then they tell you, sir, it's not avail. Okay? That's a Filipinoism kasi ang Pilipino minsan mahilig mag-contract ng isang word. So, avail actually, if you look at it and then you go out to different countries, the term avail has a different meaning from available. When you say avail, meaning you're supposed to take advantage of something. That's why you avail a promo, you avail a discount. But available is when a particular item is available. Okay? So yung term na avail na yan, sir, sorry, hindi po avail. Actually, it's one of my pet peeves. Kino-correct ko minsan yung mga tao sa department stores, or not really department stores, sa mga fast food chain. No, please say available because avail has a different meaning. Okay? Ano pa ba ang example ng Filipinoisms? For a while. Sa ibang bansa, pag sinabi mong for a while, it means that they would have to wait for a very long time. That's why one of the cultural shocks of any person who's joining the IT BPM industry and they're serving, for example, their clients are based in North America. Some of them would tell us, sir, nagalit po yung customer ko kasi sinabi ko, I'll be back in a while. And I said, well, in a while in other countries means for a very long time. Whereas here in the Philippines, in a while means saglit lang po, 'di ba? So those are examples of Filipinoism. So you will notice as well, let's say for example, if you're talking to a foreigner, that even if your pronunciation is right and even if your grammar structure is right, sometimes the foreigner will look at you differently. And maybe because the person cannot understand you because they have a different context to what you're saying. And that's basically it. DEI, ano tong DEI na tinatawag natin? This is something that's becoming more and more visible nowadays. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. When we're talking about that, meron ding contextual communication, like what I mentioned earlier, yung gay lingo. At the same time, I don't know if everybody is aware of this one, especially when you are well aware of the different forms of the LGBTQIA plus community. Dati LGBT lang yan. Biglang naging extension pa. Okay? Ang dami na palang gender identities na meron. You know, may pan-queer, merong cis-male, mga ganun. Ano yun? Okay? And that's why sometimes it's very important. And we're going to talk about this further later on. But, you know, when we're talking about DEI, it's contextual that is pertaining to that particular community also. Yan. And next is expressions. Yung mga idiomatic expressions natin. Sometimes there are a lot of idiomatic expressions in English that are being used widely by, say, foreigners. You know, maybe they're from North America or maybe they're from any part of the English-speaking world, for example. I can give examples in English though. But they have certain expressions that we don't usually know or that we're not usually aware of, or maybe we've heard about it, but we just don't say it here in the Philippines. Okay? For example, what if somebody told you, let's say somebody asked you a question, you were able to give the correct answer, and then the person says, you hit the nail right on the head. Okay? That's an example of an expression that we don't usually use here in the Philippines, but is used elsewhere. So these are contextual types of communication. Okay, the last in our most common type of communication is active listening. And active listening is very important because there's no way you can communicate effectively in any of the forms that I just mentioned earlier if you did not listen. Active listening is a way of listening and responding to other persons that involves mutual understanding. So it involves comprehension. Everybody can listen. But the question is, are they actively listening? Okay, so it's important. It's actually an important first step to diffuse situations and to seek solutions in problems. If you know how to actively listen, that's how you will be able to handle escalations and any other issues that may come your way, especially when you are working. So this is where the aspect of knowing how to probe and to troubleshoot will come in. Verbal nods, you know, saying, yes, I understand. Even those it will tell people or it will give an impression that you are listening to whoever you're talking to. Paraphrasing statements, especially kung maraming nasabi yung tao sa'yo, di ba minsan sabi mo, teka. So pagkakaintindi ko, ito yung sinabi mo. Okay? And that's a good way for you to it's a good way for the other person to know that you're really listening because you know how to paraphrase the statement. At the same time, it gives you the ability to correct whatever it is that you heard. Empathy is another thing. And this is something that a lot of Filipinos are not used to. And it's something that has to do with our, it's something to do with our culture. Okay? For example, pag may sinabing, uy, namatay si ganito, hindi naman tayo unang nagsasabi ng, uy, condolence. Hindi kagad eh. Usually, ang kasagot niyan, paano namatay? Siguro COVID. Yung mga ganon, di ba? But empathy is another thing. When we're talking about empathy, we're talking about putting ourselves in the shoes of that person. And when we say putting ourselves in the shoes of that person, it means that we are, that we understand what they're going through. Or at least we understand whatever feeling that they have. Okay? And that's a good way for you to practice active listening because you are actually communicating in terms of not just giving information, but also listening to the person, checking if what you understood was correct, and empathizing with that person for whatever feeling the person may have. Okay? So now the question is, how do we improve our communication skills? Okay? Because when we're talking about communication skills, we're not just talking about a specific language. Ika nga ni Janine Tugonon, being Miss Universe doesn't mean that you have to speak a specific language. Okay? How do you improve your communication skills? We can do so by these icons that I put here. We're going to start with the first one. The first tip is always know your audience. It's important for you to know who you're talking to. You have to be aware about who they are, what kind of people they are, their demographic, so that you will know what kind of communication you need to do. Who are the people you're talking to? Is it your classmate? Is it your family and friends? Is it your teachers? Is it your fellow, or is it the administrators of your school? Okay? As you go down the line, are you going to talk to somebody who's going to interview you? Are you going to talk to the hiring manager? Are you going to talk to your supervisor? If you are promoted, for example, are you going to talk to the people who report to you? Okay? You have to know who they are, because you have to tailor fit your communication style depending on the people you talk to. Okay? That's why kung magsalita ka kunyari sa barkada mo, ganito, hindi naman ibig sabihin na ganun din dapat ikaw magsasalita sa mga magulang mo. Because, you know, sometimes maybe your parents would have a different type of expectation in how you would communicate with them. Okay? So you have to know your audience. Next, what are you doing? What exactly are you doing? Are you going to, are you just discussing mundane things? Are you discussing work? Are you discussing your school? What exactly are you doing? Are you going to have a job interview? Are you going to present in front of whoever? And if ever you are going to present, who are you going to present it to? Okay. Another thing that you need to know when you're talking about knowing your audience, what modality? Nakatayo ba ako sa tapat niya? Is it a panel interview? Is it a one-on-one interview? Is it through Zoom like what I'm doing right now? Okay? So you need to know that as well. Another important thing, and this is stemming from who, you have to know the demographic of the persons you are going to talk to. Kaedad mo ba yan? Mas matanda ba yan sa'yo? Kung mas matanda yan sa'yo, gaano katanda yan sa'yo? Magsasalita ka ba sa grupo ng mga senior citizen? Magsasalita ka ba sa grupo ng mga PWD? You need to know the demographics, because the kind of language that you will use might affect how they are perceiving you to be when you communicate to them. For example, you're going to present an idea, let's say a product, to a group of senior citizens. Tapos, yung language na gagamitin mo, medyo demeaning sa mga senior citizens. 'Di ba? Yung mga tipong, malapit na po kayong, bago nyo man lang makita si Lord. 'Di ba yung mga ganon? Very insensitive. So, you need to know your demographics. Especially when you're the type of person who would crack jokes every now and then, lalo na when you're presenting. Ganyan lalo na if you're presenting a report, a meeting, if you're teaching, if you're training. Sometimes you have to put humor into it So, you need to know your demographics. You need to know, okay, yung joke ba na ibibigay ko, maiintindihan ng mga taong ito. Okay? Next, you need to know your audience's personalities. Usually, hindi naman natin masasabi yan Like now, I'm talking to everyone here. I really don't know your personalities, your individual personalities. I'm just basing this on the demographics, because I know that I'm talking to a lot of students. Majority are students. And thank you, Ma'am Jane. Meron din pala ditong from the different PUP schools, branches, and staff and admin. So at least I know from the get-go how I will be communicating with you. Is it going to be very formal? Is it going to be very casual? Is it going to be very laid back? Okay. And you base it usually on the personality. Okay? Pardon if you're hearing dogs. I'm actually working at home. I have 10 dogs. Anywho, next is language to use. Okay, it's very important to know what kind of language that you need to use in a specific conversation. Obviously, if it's just your personal conversation with your parents, kung ano man yung nakasanayan nyo, that's fine. Whatever language, whatever dialect, that's fine. As long as nagkakaintindihan kayo. Okay, but if you know that you are, say, applying for a job, going to a job interview, expect nyo na kahit pa yung job interview nyo sa isang kumpanya na hindi call center, for example, i-expect nyo na that the language that you have to use is English, primarily because English is the lingua franca for business here in the Philippines. Okay? So, expect that. Merong rason kung bakit tayo tinuruan ng English mula elementary hanggang high school until even the first 2 years of college. Because that's the lingua franca. Okay? But if you know, ito yung rule of thumb when it comes to language to use, especially when you're applying for a job and whatnot. Kung nauna yung interviewer mo, nakausapin ka in Tagalog, saka ka mag-Tagalog. Pag tinanong ka ng English, sumagot ka ng English. Because that's basically proper etiquette also. Okay? So once you've known your audience, another tip that I can give you is this. Do not just hear. Listen. Actively listen to the person you are conversing with regardless of the medium. Regardless of the medium na yan. Okay? First of all, when you listen attentively to the other person and vice versa, when that person listens to you, you will be able to distinguish what the main topic of conversation is all about. Okay? Dito itong isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit nagkakaaway-away at nagkakaroon ng mga issue ang lahat ng bagay sa mundo. Kasi una sa lahat, naintindihan ba talaga ng isang partido or when I say partido, it's not political the party. Okay? Naintindihan ba ng mga parties involved kung ano yung pinag-uusapan? Kasi you will realize that a lot of the breakdown in communication would stem from if they understood what the conversation was all about, including the context. Okay? In a job interview, for example, ano ba yung question? Minsan kasi sa sobrang nervyos ng isang aplikante, when we ask them a question, they would answer it really differently. And it's not just a job interview. I've been active in the pageant industry since 2004 as part of the media. I even became an organizer of such. I remember watching, and I've always loved watching pageant because it distresses me. There was this one pageant in 2001. One candidate was asked, what can you say about Filipina then and Filipinas now? So the question is very clear. Anong masasabi mo sa pagkakaiba ng mga Pilipina noon at ngayon? So she started the answer. She said, Filipinas then, bigla siyang natahimik. And then she said, being a beauty queen does not depend on the luster of the crown but on the substance of her heart. Walang kinalalaman yung sagot niya sa tanong niya. Okay? And all because she heard the question but she didn't listen. Okay? And that usually happens every day. When you speak to someone and so on. If you did not understand what they were talking about, probe. Magtanong ka. Ano nga pala yung pinag-uusapan natin? Kaya di ba meron minsan sa isang conversation ng mga barkada, ang bilis mag-jump ng topic from one to another. So, kung nawawala ka na sa direksyon, ask. And in asking also, and in whether you're asking or not, you're just listening to another person, you have to know how to acknowledge. Acknowledging will give the other person that idea that you are listening. Kahit na yung, habang nagsasalita, Sometimes you even nod your head habang nagsasalita yung tao. Pero syempre, siguraduhin mo naman na hindi ka umaarte. Totoong naiintindihan mo. Okay? Acknowledging, you can use phrases such as, oh, I hear what you're saying. I understand. Ay, oo nga, no? Di ba may mga ganun tayo? Those are acknowledging. Next, when you say paraphrase, nakikipag-usap ka, ang daming sinabi ng taong yun sa'yo, and then the person is asking you for your opinion on things, then you may want to paraphrase what the person said so that you know that what answer you're giving is a very accurate answer. Okay? For example, ang dami niyang sinabi, and this is usually well applied in the IT BPM industry. We deal with customers a lot, and they would say a lot of things, because especially if you're working in a service in the service industry, hindi naman trained yung mga customers nyo sa kung ano man yung meron kayo eh. So when you ask them what's wrong, they will not say it to you directly. They will give you a story. So you need to know how to get the topic by probing and then paraphrasing it. Empathize. Eto, papasok na to, yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina. Sinabi, halimbawa, nagkukwentuhan tayo, ay sorry, hindi ako nakapunta sa meeting kasi namatayan kasi kami. Don't just diss the person for saying that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Gumano ka na lang. Because then it will give them the impression that you are listening. And these things are very important, no? Kanina kasi sinabi ni Ma'am Jane, 'di ba? This is all soft skills. But it's actually soft skills that plays a very crucial part in your success in an industry also. Because ultimately, everybody needs to communicate. We've been communicating since we were young. 'Di ba? Kahit babies nagko-communicate. Kaya nga 'di ba alam mo yung iyak niya minsan ng mga magulang, alam nila kung yung iyak, oy, umaarte lang yung batang yan. O kaya iyak na, ay nako, nagugutom. Ay nako, nagpupu. 'Di ba? People have been communicating since they were born. But it's important for us to know all these types and all these factors in communication so that we can be more successful as we communicate further, depending on which chapter of our lives we are at. Next, get to the point. Huwag nang paligoy-ligoy. Avoid being wordy. Be concise, but be precise. Kasi minsan pag sinasabi mong be concise, or itong tinatawag nating KISS, keep it short and simple, minsan hindi na magsasalita yung tao. Yes o no na lang. Kaso, the reality of life is that we would still have to talk and talk all the time. But if we are going to talk and talk, make sure to be concise. Choose your words. Be simple in using your words. Hindi all the time kailangan natin gumamit ng mga salita na nakuha natin sa vocabulary pagkatapos nating magbasa ng isang nobela. Okay? Because you have to understand, are these words used in everyday communication? Because you want to stick with words that are simple, because at least alam mo na lahat ng tao maintindihan yun. 'Di ba? I'm not going to be in front of you and say, I am so privileged in this macrocosm of people. Nobody uses macrocosm anymore in everyday life. Right? So use simple words. One of the things that I always tell people is that when you are communicating, especially when you're communicating in English, you're not there to impress people na marunong kang mag-Ingles. Kaya yung mga ibang tao, kailangan gumamit ng mga highfalutin na words na hindi din naman naiintindihan ng iba. Okay? But when you use simple words, and these words are very direct, then you are going to transmit your information across more effectively. Okay? Filipinos in general, mahirap silang mag-get to the point. Tayo ang kultura natin kasi, kung napapansin nyo to mula bata pa tayo, sometimes when we are asked a yes or no question, we always answer with because. Kasi parang kailangan nating mag-explain all the time. 'Di ba? Yung parang tinanong mo yung bata, sinong nakabasag nito? Binasag mo ba to? Kasi kanina naglalaro po ako, tapos pagkatapos ko maglaro, 'di ba? nagkaroon na ng isang storya, sasagot ka lang naman ng oo o hindi. And we have to understand also, it's a cultural thing. Ang Pinoys kasi, we don't really like to reject. There's a lot of, for some reason, we notice there are more people who would like to please other people. Kaya parang ayaw nilang mag-no. Kaya pag tinatanong sila na, masarap ba to? Masarap ba yung niluto ko sa'yo? Pansinin mo sa kanila, hindi nila sasabihin yung no. They try to avoid it. Sometimes they use more words. They don't like to get to the point right away. Okay? But there are a lot of people now who like to get to the point right away also. When you're using an email, ewan ko kung alam nyo to, emails should print to one page preferably. Pag kayo nagsasend ng email, dapat yung haba ng email nyo, pag pinrint yan, isang page lang. Mapwera na lang kung halimbawa, you're going to say something pertaining to a policy, to a document and whatnot. Usually, you attach the policy. You attach the document. Pero yung body ng email nyo, usually, if you're going to print it, dapat one page lang. In the same manner, for example, if you're creating your resume, the resume should also print to one page as well. Okay? And that's how you get to the point. That's why wala na masyadong paligoy-ligoy. Usually, tinatanong ako dyan especially when they're asking me how to effectively create a resume. Sabi ko, you don't need to mention everything because that's going to be the topic of the interview. That's where yun na yung sasabihin mo. Okay? Now, you've known your audience, you actively listened, you're making sure that you're direct to the point. Another important thing when you're talking about improving your communication skills is that you have to know how to engage the people you are talking with or talking to. Allow interaction, hindi yung ikaw lang, and involve the audience. Okay? So kung nakikipagkwentuhan ka lang sa kapwa mo, kaibigan mo, whatever, yung wala namang kinalalaman sa trabaho, walang kinalalaman sa eskwela, yung chikahan lang, usually two-way yan eh. May sasabihin isa, may sasabihin isa. 'Di ba? Kaya nga tayo nagkiklik ng ganyan. But in other aspects, for example, if it's more business related, get input from the people you are talking to. Even for, let's say, a job interview, it's okay to ask them questions so that you can engage them as well. Don't dominate the conversations, not unless there's a need. For example, and even, for example, let's say you're teaching or you're training someone or you're facilitating a meeting or you're presenting in a meeting, you usually have to get input from others. You would have to ask people, do you have any suggestions? Do you have any reactions to whatever it is that we're proposing, so that you are engaging them? Okay? Make sure as well that when you're speaking with someone, you are using a friendly tone. Mapwera na lang kung galit ka. Pero even pag galit ka sa isang tao at nakikipag-communicate ka sa isang tao, hindi mo dapat pinapakita yung sobrang galit. Okay? Make sure that it's friendly, especially when you are speaking to the academe, if you are speaking in a business setting, for example, make sure that it is friendly. Allow people to be gravitated towards you through engagement. When you are in an interview, know when and when not to divulge information. Okay? Because you might be engaging the other person or the interviewer in a negative way if you divulge too much or if you didn't divulge anything at all. Okay? Parang naghihilahan tayo kung paano makalabas ang information from you. Proper body language and gestures also are examples on how you can engage people. What do I mean by that? If you are speaking to another person and the person is just in front of you, lean forward. Because when you lean forward habang wag naman yung sobrang malapitan na mukha sa mukha, pero when you lean forward, it means that you're interested in what they're saying. So that's what they can infer from that body language. Okay, when the person is speaking to you, don't put your arms like this. Wag kayong magganyan. I forgot what it's called, pero wag kayong magganyan, because that's a closed body language, and that person will feel na parang hindi to open to whatever I have to say. The person is defensive. Usually ganun yung mga defensive eh. Ano pong ginawa ko? 'Di ba? That's one. So proper body language and gestures is very important. Huwag kayong magro-rolyo ng mata habang nakikipag-usap sa tao, lalo na for example if it's a job interview, yung tinatanong ka, bigla kang gumanon, because then the person will get an impression that you don't really know and you didn't really prepare for this job interview. Okay? So you have to know how to engage them. And in engaging people, you have to be inclusive. Make sure that your communication puts your audience in a safe place. Always allow diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm actually that's one of my advocacies to make sure that we are going across, sending the message across regarding being inclusive. Kasi diyan nagkakaroon din ng it pretty much results to another party being offended without us knowing that we've offended them. Okay? For example, just parang a few weeks ago or last month, di ba nagkaroon ng issue naman dun sa EAT na TV show, sila Tito Vic Joey, more specifically si Joey De Leon, when he mentioned yung lubid. Okay? And a lot of people reacted towards it. And then some other people would say, they don't understand why a lot of people are making an issue out of lubid, when in fact it's something that has to do with inclusivity, especially now that we understand more about mental health issues, about depression and suicide, kaya it becomes a big thing. So in that aspect, they could have been branded as insensitive, pero baka sa kanila, joke lang yon. Pero yun nga yun eh. Dapat marunong tayong mag-joke ng tama. Be inclusive all the time. So you have to be sensitive to the people you are talking to. Okay? Use the proper pronouns. If you are unsure, ask. What do I mean by this? Dito sa Pilipinas, for some reason, pag nalaman nilang bakla ka, feeling nila gusto mo maging babae, hindi totoo yun. Okay? And that's something that we need to re-educate a lot of the people on. And that's why there are different types of pronouns. I am a member of the LGBT community, but my pronouns is he. Ayokong tinatawag akong ma'am kasi hindi ako babae. Okay? But you have the transgenders who really, mula nung pinanganak sila, bata sila, feeling nila they were born in the wrong gender, they're transgenders. They use a certain type of pronouns as well. So you have to ask them if you are not sure what pronouns they use. Okay? Don't always assume na ito yung gusto nila. But actually, in general, never assume. Because when you assume, okay, break down the word assume, you're making an ass out of you and me. Diba? So just to be sensitive to everybody, be inclusive all the time, especially with the language that you use. Your tone of voice as well, especially when you're speaking with the elderly. Hindi lahat ng matatanda kailangang lakasan ninyo yung boses nyo. In the same manner, pag nakikipag-usap kayo sa isang tao who is part of the PWD community, hindi ibig sabihin kailangan nila ng tulong all the time. Okay? So when you communicate with them, you have to be sensitive to who they are as well. Okay? And that's why it's important for you to know your audience so that you know how to become inclusive in your form of communication, whether it's through written, chat, even sa mga ginagamit niyong terms, nakita ka ng PWD ng isang physically disabled na tao, biglang tatawagin mo, uy, pilantod. That's wrong. Okay? So you have to be inclusive all the time. Next, when you're speaking with someone, look them in the eye. Show your confidence with eye contact. Okay? Dito sa Pilipinas kasi, we all know that sometimes ang mga away nanggagaling sa tinginan. 'Di ba? Yung mga ibang away ng mga bata noon, nagkatingilan ng masama, nag-away na. But in communicating, it's very important to look them in the eye. Okay? Always look at the person you are conversing to with, proper eye contact. Huwag naman yung galit kang nakatingin na gano'n. Kailangan, friendly pa rin. Remember that the eye is the window of the soul. And when you are looking at the person's eyes, nakikita mo rin kung anong iniisip niya. Nabobore ba to sa akin? Matatawa kaya ito sa jokes ko based on how he is looking at me or she is looking at me. And avoid weird stares. Huwag mo naman tignan yung tao na parang hinuhubaran. 'Di ba? Always look them in the eye. And that's a very hard thing to do for a lot of people, primarily because we thought, because we become so vulnerable when we are looked at sa mata. But the thing is, pag tumitingin ka sa mata, nalalaman mo rin kung nagsisinungaling ang tao. Especially in job interviews. Try to notice in a job interview, the interviewer will always look at you in the eye. Because job interviewers are trained to determine if a person is lying just by looking in the eye. Kasi, and this has scientific studies, pag nagsisinungaling ang tao, may tendency ang eyeball to involuntarily move to the right. So alam namin, to the right ba, to the left ba rin? Malalaman kagad namin, ay, nagsinungaling siya. Ay, diba? But look them in the eye, because I think it's another way for us to build rapport with another person if they know and they can feel that you are really interested in speaking with them or communicating with them by looking them in the eye. Now, yes, you can look them in the eye if you are speaking to them in front of them. But let's say in this kind of environment where everything is virtual, kaya dapat alam mo kung nasaan ang camera at sa camera ka lang nakatingin. Okay? Hindi nakatingin ka sa ganyan, tapos habang nagsasalita ka, because the other person will see na, ay, nagtatype ito habang kausap ako. In our company, actually, our director, whenever we have our weekly virtual calls, and it has to be virtual, hindi siya face-to-face, because sa laki ng Concentrix, we're in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, so we have different teams everywhere. So we always use MS Teams when we have a meeting. Talagang inaano yan, lahat naka-camera on. And then at the same time, when you're presenting, tingin ka sa camera, wag lang sa screen mo. Okay? Next, ask questions. And this goes along with active listening. But in asking questions, always be wise in asking. And this can only be done if you really listen. So you ask for feedback. For example, you're in a job interview. You ask for feedback as well. If it's possible for you to ask for feedback, that's fine. Ask for clarification. I'm sorry, sir, but I wasn't able to get what you said. And then you paraphrase it. Okay? To the best of your ability or the best of your knowledge. Ask for more information about the company, especially if you're in a job interview. And you will notice this because usually in a job interview, the interviewer will always say, do you have any questions for me? Then ask. And this is why later on you're going to see this in one of my slides. You have to do your research. You have to do your homework prior to going to a job interview, because you will use what you researched in the job interview itself, especially when the interviewer asks you, do you have any questions for me? Because then it will give them an impression that you are really interested in applying for this job in this company. Okay? Ask sensible questions. What do you mean by sensible questions? For example, nagkukwentuhan kayo ng isang tao, grabe, natapilok nga ako kahapon eh. Masakit ba? Obviously, 'Di ba? Meron bang natapilok na hindi masakit? 'Di ba? Yung mga ganun. Pero aminin natin, tayo may mga tendency ganyan magtanong, 'di ba? So, ask questions that are more related to whatever topic that the person that you are having in the conversation. But at the same time, when you ask questions, you ask them either to clarify what you heard or ask for more information. Hindi yung magtatanong ka tungkol sa isang bagay, nakakasagot lang. What do I mean by that? Just yesterday, we had an activity, and then we just gave them the instructions and so on. And then yung tanong niya, do you have any questions? Ang tanong niya, exactly, what are the instructions, what we have to do? Parang, we just said it, right? And that's very important because the mood of the entire conversation will change depending on how you understood, or each of you understood what each other is saying. So when you're asking questions, wag naman yung makatanong lang. You know, ask questions if there really is something worth asking. Next is avoiding distractions and distortions. Okay, you avoid internal and external factors from clouding your understanding and communication. When you say distortions, this is something that's more internal. For example, pag ikaw may sakit, minsan hindi ka makapag-isip ng maayos. 'Di ba? Pag ikaw, for example, na-jebs, 'di ba? Minsan, kahit ano sabihin ng isa, parang hindi siya nagre-register kaagad sa'yo. All because ito yung nararamdaman mo. Another example would be, kaya ito nakalagay dito, go to the restroom before an interview, kasi minsan sa isang opisina sobrang lamig and you need to go to the restroom. And if that's being said, make sure to go to the restroom before the interview so that when you go to the interview, you're more relaxed, you're more calm. Hindi mo nararamdaman na kailangan magwiwi. Okay? Focus on the interviewer. Remove any prejudice. Prejudice is an example of a distortion because it's something that's internal to you. Okay? So, halimbawa, may pumasok sa isang job interview, o kaya nakikipag-usap ka, may pinakilala sa'yo, ang daming piercing dito, may piercing pa dito, may todo-todo tattoo na hindi mo mawari. Remove any prejudice. Always think of the person as a human being. And that human being, all human beings deserve respect, deserve to be communicated with without any form of prejudice and judgment. Okay? When you're talking about external factors, those are distractions. May maingay, merong gumagawang construction sa tabi ng bahay mo, merong nagtatahulang aso. Okay? Don't pay attention to anything that's not part of the conversation as necessary. Especially when you are, for example, in a virtual type of communication, especially if you are, let's say, may interview ka virtual. Nasa bahay ka lang. So, ganyan-ganyan ka. Tapos merong pumasok sa kwarto mo, ano naman ang nangyari? See? That's distortion. You're now removing yourself from the actual communication that should have happened. And that will affect the mood of the interviewer. That will affect the outcome of the interview. Okay? Because it's not showing us that you're putting importance. Now, finally, always pay attention to nonverbal cues, because these nonverbal cues will tell you if the conversation, the presentation, whatever it is that you're doing, if it's going well. Okay? So, tignan mo, meron bang nagyon? Meron bang naghikab? Nag-joke ka pero walang tumawa. Ayun, obvious na yun. Pag nag-joke ka, kunyari, you're in a meeting, you're whatever, walang tumawa, you have to think about, okay, should I still move on and continue cracking jokes, or should I just go to the point? Be careful with close body gestures. Ano yung close body gestures? Yung sa arms, alam nyo na. Another thing is, pag yung nakaganon, nakaupo na ganon, okay? Because it means that they're getting bored. The eye gaze. Ano yung eye gaze na yan? Yung nakatuon ba yung paningin nila sa'yo? Nakatingin ba somewhere else? Sa pangkalawakan? Okay? You have to pay attention to these non-verbal cues. So now that we have these tips, let me ask another question. What should you take into consideration in verbal communication? Because to be honest with you, sa written, o sige, minsan, on an etiquette basis, nagkakaroon tayo ng breakdown sa written, but usually the breakdown in communication happens when you're doing verbal communication. Okay. So what should you take into consideration in verbal communication? One, your pronunciation matters as well, especially when you are speaking in English or in any other language apart from your national language. Okay, grammar is important. But one thing that I usually tell a lot of people is that you shouldn't be so concerned about grammar. You can be cautious, but you shouldn't. You can be conscious, but you shouldn't be too all up in there. Because to be honest with you, even people from other countries that are, their birth language or their primary language is English, for example, they still make mistakes in their grammar structure. A good example of that are, people from the United States. In fact, minsan na-adapt ng mga Pilipino, hindi nila alam na mali pala yung grammar nun. Okay? So pronunciation, grammar, conciseness, I mentioned this earlier. You want to be more direct to the point. And when we're talking about conciseness, remove any other modifier that should not have been there. Kasi minsan tayo, ang Pilipinas kasi, ang Filipinos in general, I included, minsan masyado tayong maraming pasakali, masyado tayong maraming palabok na nakakalimutan natin, ano nga palang sasabihin ko? Okay? So you want to be concise. Okay, pronunciation, what can you do to improve your pronunciation? Check the dictionary. Kung ayaw mo magbuklat ng libro, there are a lot of websites that will tell you how to pronounce certain words. Okay? Another good way for you to check on your pronunciation, record yourself. Kasi pag nagsasalita ako ng ganito, hindi ko naman alam kung talagang tama. Well, sometimes I catch myself, especially if I know the pronunciation and I mispronounce something, I catch myself easily. But for other people, what you can do, ang mga cellphone natin may recorder yan. Sabihin mo yung word, i-check mo sa website, anong tama, pagkumparahin mo. At least you will be able to apply, practicing on proper pronunciation. Okay? Grammar is another thing. How do you check for grammar? Maraming mga websites that will give you tips on how to work on your grammar. Okay? Accent. Ano ba tong accent? Accent in Tagalog is punto. Okay? When you are communicating verbally, as much as possible, neutralize your accent. Because sometimes, kahit na malito, some people get judged solely because they have an accent. Okay? Have you noticed, for example, Jokoy, who is a stand-up comedian in the United States, he makes fun of Filipino accents. Masakit bang isipin, natatawa din naman tayo, totoo naman, pero he makes fun of accents. And now it's spreading like wildfire. Jokoy is not the only one, and I'm not saying that he's the first one to do it, but there are other comedians now who would make fun of the Filipino accent. In the same manner, Filipinos make fun of another country's accent, for example, an Indian accent when we hear them, okay? So as much as possible, learn how to neutralize your accent. And how do you do that? Check on the pronunciation in the dictionary and then stick with that, okay? Word stress. What do we mean by word stress? In speech, dito yung rising and falling of your intonation, okay? Word stress din yon. You stress one word more than the other. And the thing is, when we're talking about word stress, the meaning of the sentence changes depending on the words that we stress. For example, notice that there will be a difference in the meaning when I say good luck, where I stress luck, and good luck. Diba? Mas offensive yung pangalawa, good luck. Whereas yung isa, good luck, talagang sincere na nag-good luck sa isang tao. And that's an example of how we can change the way we are perceived by just stressing the right words. Okay? And more importantly, practice. How do you practice in verbal communication? For example, nag-apply kayo sa trabaho. Alam niyo na ang trabaho na yon, for example, you're applying in the BPO community or the BPO industry, and you know that it's required to speak in English. Then practice speaking in English. Practice with your friends. Practice with your family. You know, huwag kayong matakot mapagtawanan. Because usually yung tumatawa, yung hindi din naman kasi nila ginagawa. But when you practice, you can stand in the mirror, talk to yourself. Huwag nga lang pakita sa buong madlang people, pero you can talk to yourself, practice in the mirror, or like what I mentioned earlier, record yourselves. Because in recording yourselves, that's how you will know if you're pronouncing words correctly, and if you're saying something, then you will know if you made a grammar mistake. Okay? One of the things that we do in our industry, and I can speak for Concentrix, is that we have an automated communication assessment. And in that communication assessment, we determine the proficiency or the English proficiency of an applicant. And sometimes we do this more than once, because sometimes we check if we have an improvement of our proficiency, especially when it comes to our tenure. And one part of that automated assessment is you will receive a topic. You will be given 30 seconds to think about the topic, and then you will be given 45 seconds to talk about the topic. And that is a good way for you to practice as well. You know, as simple as, you know, have somebody write something like topics, and then you speak about it. And you really have to speak about it for that time period. Yung hindi yung pag natapos ka na ng isang sentence, tapos na. Because in a way, it will make you practice in becoming more comfortable in the English language. More importantly, and I'm saying English because, you know, like what I said earlier, English is the lingua franca here in business for the Philippines. When you are practicing and when you are conversing in English, pag kayo nag-iisip, when you are thinking, think in the language that you're supposed to be speaking. In other words, if you are going to speak in English, think in English. Huwag kayong mag-isip ng Tagalog tapos kailangan i-convert mo pa siya sa English kasi magtatagal, maglalag. Diba? Para siyang isang dial-up na internet na pagkatagal-tagal bago lumabas yung connection. Instead, when you're thinking, when you're going to speak in the language, mindset, set your mind that you are speaking or you are thinking in that language as well. And you will realize, by the way, that when that happens, English will come in more quickly to you. Okay? Next. Let's talk about written communication etiquette. Okay, and the reason why I put this here is, you know, we're talking about communication skills. Written communication is very important as well. So what kind of etiquette should we follow when you're talking about written communication? Number one, spell words correctly. Regardless of what language you're using, spell the words correctly. For example, nagtatagalog ka. Okay? Gusto mong sabihin kasi. Anong spelling ng kasi? It's K-A-S-I, hindi K-A-S-E. Right? So spell the words correctly because it will also tell the other person, whether you're conversing with them casually or not, that you still put importance in that. Second, proper sentence structure. Always know what always recheck on the sentences that you write so that you know kung tama ba yung grammar, meron bang umuulit na words na paulit-ulit in one sentence, does the sentence make sense? Always check that as well. Kasi minsan we write sentences, whether it's in English or Tagalog, anumang lengguwahe yan, based on kung ano yung naiisip natin. And sometimes we write it directly. Okay? You have to know how to structure your sentences and structure your paragraphs so that di ba tinuro to sa school? Yung first main idea sa isang paragraph, second main idea sa isang paragraph, and make sure that the sentences are not too long. Again, keep it short and simple. Kasi the more you make your sentences in written communication, say an email, usually an email, the more you make it longer by making complex and compound sentences, nawawala yung taong nagbabasa sa pag-unawa ng kung anong sinabi mo. Okay? Because every individual has a certain time frame lang na mabilis nating makuha kung anong sinasabi. Tsaka may mga tao na ayaw nagbabasa ng mahaba. Kayo ba gusto niyo magbasa ng mahaba? 'Di ba? So when you're writing an email, make sure that the structure is also concise. Punctuate your emails also very carefully. You should know the proper punctuation, kailan gagamit ng tuldok, kailan gagamit ng semicolon, ng comma, ng colon, and so on, so that you know how it's supposed to be. You know how to end your sentences. In the same manner, by the way, and I think I forgot to put this here, avoid typing in caps lock. Because when you type in caps lock, it means that you're shouting at the person. Always have a salutation and an ending. When you're writing an email, hindi yan chat, hindi yan bigla ka nalang magsasabi ng kung anong gusto mong sabihin. Always have a salutation and an ending. So ano yung salutation? Dear sir, hi ma'am, ganun pa nga yung sa iba. When you're ending it, thank you very much, have a nice day, respectfully. It doesn't have to be too formal, but at least give a salutation and an ending. And when you are writing an email, always create a subject line and a body. I have encountered many times from students applying for internship in our company where they don't even write anything about it. Naghuhulaan na lang kami kung ano ba yung rason, ang naka-attach lang resume. Ni walang hi, ni walang anything, ni walang subject. Don't make the other person guess what you're trying to communicate. And that's why it's important when you are creating an email, always have a subject line and the actual body of the email. Now, going back to verbal, interview tips. Always research about the company and the industry because you can use whatever it is that you research about the company and the industry to your advantage. What do I mean by that? Check mo yung dress code. Kasi naman baka naman pupunta ka sa isang job interview na ang suot mo coat and tie, pero the whole company pala is a relaxed type of company. O di nagmukha kang kakaiba dun. And it's not necessarily good na magmukha kang kakaiba. You know what I mean? So research about the company, their dress code, their mission, their vision, the kind of career growth that you can get from that company, because those are things that you can include in your communication with them. Okay? Remember, another form of non-verbal communication is the way you dress. So important din yan. Second, whatever it is that you research about the company, you can use it when you answer. For example, tinanong ka lang ng how can you please describe yourself to me? Can you tell me something about yourself? Well, sir, I'm a person who's people-oriented, and I was actually researching on your company, and I know that you value how your staff gives the best customer experience, and that's where I think and I know that I can be good at because that's my personality. If you're talking about you're using what you researched in your answer. In the same manner, you can use what you researched about when you ask questions from the company. For example, if an interviewer asks you, "Do you have any questions?" Well, sir, in my research about your company, I found out that there is an option for workers to work 4 days a week, but in extended hours. Is that going to be applicable to me if I get accepted in this job? See, you're telling, you're giving the information, you're giving the impression to the employer or the interviewer that you're very interested about the company. You did your best in even researching about the company. Okay? So always research about the company, the industry, because hindi naman, okay, this is a reality thing to a lot of you. Okay? Hindi como ito yung course nyo, you will end up with a job directly related to that course. I'm going to be honest with you because, well, the truth of the matter is sometimes the opportunities that we have may not be as equal as the number of people who graduated from the same course. Or you may have graduated from a course that branches out of various industries. For example, accounting, finance. Lahat ng kumpanya sa lahat ng industriya kailangan ng accounting at finance, di ba? So you still need to understand the industry that you are going into. Okay? In that way, if you want to plot your career moving up, then you know what to do. When you are in an interview, never tell the interviewer that you are nervous. I'm sorry, sir, I'm nervous. Tapos biglang itatawa mo na lang. Okay? Because the purpose of a job interview, mamaya na yan. The purpose of a job interview is for you to market yourselves to the organization or the company that you're the best person for the job. Contrary to popular belief, ang akala ng lahat, ang job interview is, ang tinatanong sa inyo tipong, kaya mo bang gawin to? Kaya mo ba? Of course, sasagot yung tao ng oo kahit na hindi. 'Di ba? Interviews nowadays, job interviews nowadays and organizations, they enforce what they call behavioral-based structured interviews. When you say BBSI, they're looking into your personality, whether or not you will fit the organization. That's why they will ask you situational questions. Like, was there ever a time that you made a mistake and you had to admit to a lot of people? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Okay? And sometimes these questions can get to you and you become nervous. Let's face it, lalo na kung first job nyo, ninervyusin ka talaga sa job interview. Lalo na pag nakita mo yung mga kalaban mo, ninervyusin ka talaga. But never tell the interviewer that you're nervous. Kasi parang sinisiraan nyo na yung sarili nyo. Okay? Confidence is the key. Ika nga ni Pia Wurtzbach, ano yung sabi niya? You have to be confidently beautiful with the heart. Okay? Next, never ask for the compensation. Ako magulat ng iba dyan. Ha? Hindi namin pwede tangin magkano sa sweldohin namin. When you're in a job interview, hindi mo pa nga nakukuha yung trabaho eh. Hindi ka pa nga pumapasa ng trabaho. So wag kagad yun ang itatanong mo. Never make compensation the first thing that you ask. How much will I be making if ever? Ano mangyayari pag yung compensation expectation mo hindi yun? Una sa lahat, alam mo ba talaga yung going rate ng compensation? 'Di ba? Because there's an ideal, there's the realistic, and then you have to understand that, maybe from the people you ask, again, you're communicating with other people, magkano bang kinikita mo dyan? Technically, we're not supposed to tell you how much we are making because it's business ethics, but, some people, they do. So, ang magiging tendency ng aplikante, ito yung kikitain ko. When in fact, compensation in any business or in any company is always dependent on whether or not you have previous work experience in the same industry. So, it will all vary. Usually, compensation is discussed when you pass the interview, when you are being given a job offer. Ito, sinabi ko na to kanina, know why you are in an interview. Bakit nga ba ikaw nasa isang job interview? Okay, whether it's a job interview or an interview for your internship, what is expected of you. Diba? You're supposed to put your best foot forward, but in that aspect, don't lie. Okay? Instead, focus on your professional traits. If you don't have any previous work experience, that's fine. Everybody has a trait, and that's why it's important for you to know your personality. And if you know your personality, then you will communicate it effectively with them. Dun sa unang tanong pa lang, can you tell me something about yourself? Okay? And that's where you focus on. So pag sinabihan ka ng, can you tell me something about yourself? Wag mo siyang simulan. Wag mo siyang simulan sa, hi, my name is ganyan. You don't have to say your name anymore when you're asked, can you tell me something about yourself? Why? Because, di ba tinawag ka na para pumasok sa interview room? So alam na nila yung pangalan mo. There's no need for you to introduce yourself that way. But instead, focus on your character traits. Okay? In the same manner, when you focus on your character traits, make sure that you have something to back it with. Hindi naman kailangang concrete na backing. Pero, for example, and this is a tip that I usually give is that you marry or you combine your personal trait to something that you can see or that the interviewer can see in the resume. For example, if you were to ask me, can I say something about myself? I will start it with, I'm a huge people person, and if you're going to look at my resume, I actually have 20 years experience working in the IT BPM industry. I started as an agent, but now I'm in recruitment, which is something that I like because I get to meet a lot of new people. See, I'm saying a lot of things and I'm communicating a lot of things to you guys by just that. Okay, so you focus on yourself, you focus on your personal traits. Do not lie, but always know when not to divulge. What do I mean by that? There was an interview that I did, and I asked the applicant, what are your plans in 5 years? And then he said, well, sir, I don't really intend to stay in this company for a long time. Maybe after 3 months, I'm going to resign. Okay? Kung yun ang plano mo, huwag mo nang sabihin yung ganun. Bakit? Always understand that when companies are conducting interviews or hiring people, they are investing. May cost involved ang pag-hire ng isang tao sa isang kumpanya. Believe it or not, meron. So, we will be investing in you to start your career with us. Tapos sasabihin mo sa akin, 2 months lang aalis kayo. Sayang yung investment ko sa'yo. Huwag na lang kita tanggapin. Okay? So don't lie, but at the same time, know when not to divulge. Okay? Another thing, and this is basically the end, always be responsible social media individuals. Social media is a very popular way of communicating nowadays. And believe it or not, companies actually check social media profiles of our applicants and our employees because, well, let's face it, there are a lot of people who are irresponsible when it comes to posting on social media, and it can damage the reputation, not only of the individual, but also of the company. Okay, so that ends my talk today. If you have, I think it's time for questions and questions if you have questions, Ma'am Jane, right?
Yes, sir. Okay, so allowed naman, sir, sila to ask questions. So guys, you can interact with our speakers, Sir JP. You can type in your questions or you can raise your hand so you can interact with our speaker po. Ayun. Sino po may question?
Wala yatang questions, Ma'am Jane.
Sige nga, tingnan natin. So, pa-thumbs up naman, guys. Baka para tingnan natin. Oh, ayun, sir. Ayun, sir, may question.
Yes. Clarence, what's your question?
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Hi, good morning.
So, my
pala.
question... Hi, morning po. My question, sir, is how about kung aggressive po yung kausap? Especially
I'm sorry.
If,
You're a little choppy. Ano po ulit ang question?
ayan, sir. Rinig po?
Yes.
Ayan, sir. So, if yung case, sir, is that the person you're talking to is somewhat aggressive, Like,
Mm.
pag ganon. Kasi if ikaw din emotionally unstable, then
Mhm.
you're working on the same company, what do you think would be the right way to some sort of address yung mga ganoong cases?
Okay, very good question, Clarence. And that's something that's applicable not only to work, it's applicable also in everyday lives, whether you're speaking with any, your friends, your family. When both of you are emotionally charged, ika nga, and one is more aggressive, the best way to go about that is kung alam mo at nakikita mo na, if you're already identifying that the person is becoming aggressive, ikaw na mismo, kahit nalabag sa kalooban mo, ikaw na yung mag-tone down. Okay? Ika nga, ito yung mga term dyan be the better person, ika nga. Because when you match the aggressiveness with another aggressiveness, aakyatan lang yan and it will not result to anything. If there are things that need to be resolved, nothing will. Okay? Because pag aggressive ang isang tao kasi high yan sa pride, high yan sa kung ano yung pinaglalaban niya. So one way for you to do that is you pause, you tell, okay, maybe let's calm down first. You can talk. If you're in an office setting, sometimes kasi nakaka-stress din yung mag-usap sa loob ng isang opisina. Lalo na kung dalawa lang naman kayo. Usually what I do, lumalabas kami, daan tayo ng Starbucks saglit. And then we talk over coffee. When the environment is not as stressful, you take them to somewhere that's more calm. And then you always speak in a calmer way. So that you can decipher, ano ba tong pinaglalaban nating dalawa? Ano ba yung point mo? Ano yung point ko? What can we do to consolidate these points and come to a midway, a mid-ground na pwede nating a compromise, ika nga. I think that's the best way how to deal with that. And dealing with, very aggressive people, ganun din, wag nyo lang tatapatan o hihigitan yung aggressiveness or yung aggression because walang mangyayari doon. One of the parties would need to be calm and always understand where they're coming from in the same manner where you're coming from and how you can make a compromise. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so maraming salamat, Sir JP. Guys, may tanong pa po ba tayo kay Sir JP? Check natin kung meron. Mukhang wala na, sir. So, may tanong pa po ba? In 5? Sir, mag-count ako ha. Para ma-check natin, baka may magtanong pa So, at least makahabol yung ibang magtatanong. Okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, guys, ayan. Kahit sa Facebook, sir, medyo wala yata pong tanong.
Mm-hmm.
So, at least alam nila at alam natin na medyo malinaw at talagang malinaw yung discussion ni Sir JP tungkol sa communication skills. And I hope everyone is mas marami kayong natutunan at mas mabilis na kayo makikipag-communicate kahit kanino, whether subordinate man yan, boss nyo, kaibigan nyo, magulang nyo, or wag lang. Pwede ba aso? Joke. So, pwede rin naman. Pero syempre, 'di ba, may mga communication type of communication hindi naman applicable once na hayop. Tama ba, Sir JP? So, limit lang natin ha. Okay. So guys, the link for evaluation is currently posted sa ating Zoom chat and it will be already posted na rin po. Ipopost na rin po namin sa ating PUP Career Center Facebook page.
Ma'am Jane.
Yes po.
Merong nagtanong pero nag-direct message sa akin.
Nag-DM. Sige, sir.
Maybe let me just read this before we end. The person said, mostly employers usually ask for work experience. My question, what kind of experience are they looking for if you're just a newly graduate? Always check when you're applying for a job if the job position is accepting newly grads. Because there are some job positions na automatic yan. That's why you have, this is written communication naman. You have to read completely kung ano man yung nakalagay. Halimbawa, you're looking at LinkedIn. If you're looking at Job Street na Seek na yata ngayon ang pangalan, I forgot. check the whole MHR. What do you mean by MHR? Minimum hiring requirements. If they're requiring for people with work experience, huwag mo lang i-push kung newly grad ka. But what kind of experience, if you are a newly grad, it won't hurt for you to tell them that you are a newly grad, but then focus on your professional or the kind of traits or character traits that you developed while you were in college. That will be beneficial to the position you are applying for. I hope I answered that question.
Okay, so maraming salamat, Sir JP. So, in summary, communication skills today is more important hindi lang sa personal life natin, kung hindi sa ating personal or private life. So, successful communication help us understand people and the situation. It helps us overcome diversity, build trust and respect, and create a condition where you can share your creative ideas and solve problems. Tama po ba? Agree po ba tayo lahat doon? Okay. So,
Paano sila iba doon sa resident siya?
okay, so yung link ng evaluation natin is currently posted again sa ating Zoom chat, and it will be posted sa ating PUP Career Center Facebook page. So guys, kung sino man yung hindi pa po nakaka-follow at hindi naman subscribe, nakaka-follow or nakaka-like sa ating Facebook page, share ko po ha. Ito po yung ating Facebook page, so you can follow us or you can like this page para po maging updated tayo or updated kayo sa mga event ng PUP Alumni Relation and Career Development Office. So, Sir JP, in behalf of the Alumni Relation and Career Development Office, maraming salamat, Concentrix, sa pagpapaunlak nyo at pagbibigay ng kaalaman sa ating mga kaisko at sa ating mga kaiska ngayong umagang ito. I hope na hindi magsawang tumulong at mag-share ang Concentrix, lalong-lalo ka na Sir JP, sa aming endeavor para makatulong sa kanila. So I hope everybody's well at ingat-ingat. Magandang tanghalian or magandang tanghali sa inyong lahat. Okay, so by the way, this is Professor Jane S. Pulma of the Alumni Relation and Career Development Office signing off. And this is the PUP hymn. So guys, we'll be seeing each other again mamaya at exactly 2 o'clock para naman po sa ating fundamentals of Canva. Okay, so this is our PUP hymn.